When I originally started working on this script, I was going to be talking about how the first games were single player before multiplayer games started becoming popular, but then I remembered shortly after that video games in their earliest days enjoyed huge popularity in arcades around the world, where you and your friends could have hours upon hours of fun experiences together for as long as you had some money to stuff into the machines. I'm glad I thought about it before continuing with the video, because it really helped to really reinforce the fact that video games since their earliest days have really brought people together to have great experiences and memories to think back on and share forever. But even games that weren't multiplayer, games where only one could play at a time, these games still brought people together just as effectively. Was one more effective than the other? Which style of gaming was or is better, single player or multiplayer? I mean, this video isn't going to be a definitive answer to that because, well, that's all very subjective, but I am going to be talking about my personal opinion on the subject, about the love I have for single player games. The first encounter I had with a video game, or at least the earliest memory I have, was when I watched my dad play the original Resident Evil on the PS1. Not a great game for a child to watch or play, but I was a little shit who would find a way to get on it regardless. Actually, my dad thought I was asleep, I'm pretty sure, and this being the early 2000s, we didn't have like TVs in every room. We had a little box TV in the back room that I liked to sleep in as opposed to my actual bedroom. I was and still am a fucking weirdo. It's probably just because the PS1 was in the back room, thinking about it now. Anyway, after initially seeing the first zombie encounter over my dad's shoulder in Resident Evil 1, on one hand it scared the shit out of me, on the other hand I really wanted to play the game. Eventually I did, and I died right away. I was terrible at games back then, but I was like, what, 4 or 5? I shouldn't have been playing at that age. Resident Evil 1 wasn't the first game I played. The first game that I actually played was a game called Medieval. If you don't know what Medieval is, oh god, what a game. It's this little quirky dark fantasy type game about a knight who died in battle, like right at the start of the battle, and he comes back from the dead and has to take down the evil sorcerer to be worthy of entering the Hall of Heroes. I spent an ungodly amount of time on Medieval. I mean, I bet playing it now it wasn't even that hard, but back when I was a dumb little fat kid and was even more terrible at games than I am now, hard to believe, I loved it. The art style, the gameplay, the world design, the boss fights, the music, everything about it. Medieval was the beginning of my love for video games, and it was purely thanks to the connection I had to the world and the story of the game. And that's where my personal love for video games comes from. The story, the characters, the world, the immersion. So it's safe to say you already know which form of gaming I prefer. Single player. That's not to say, bleh, multiplayer bad. More to say that I'm just someone who loves the story and the characters and the immersion of a game. But it's not like multiplayer games don't have immersion and characters. Some do. And some gamers, well, a lot of gamers I'd say, don't come to games strictly for story. A lot of people out there would consider Fortnite their favourite game, or Apex Legends. A lot of people I know love that game now actually, and I admit I liked it too for about 2 weeks, and then it got boring really quick. I mean, that mostly just comes from being tired of Battle Royale games, I guess. I mean, Apex is a well-made game, it was fun while I played it. I really love the developers too, so it's not like it's this petty thing of just hitting on it because of the BR game. I just unfortunately got bored of it after 2 weeks and uninstalled it to make room for a free game I got for PS Plus, a little game called Bloodborne. People close to me can attest to how addicted I've become to Bloodborne. I could never really get into the Souls games for the longest time. I mean, I've always been terrible at them and didn't really like the very vague story for them. I mean, that being said, I did kind of get into Dark Souls 3, but only for a few weeks, sorry. Bloodborne, on the other hand, has my heart, and I don't think it's gonna let go anytime soon. I fucking love Bloodborne, and even though it still has the quite vague storytelling of the Dark Souls games, it doesn't feel as vague as the Dark Souls games. I mean, learning the lore, talking to random NPCs that would pop up as you progress through your hunt through Yharnam and other areas, I mean, the experience so far has been incredible. I mean, I'm even starting to consider Bloodborne to be one of my favourite games ever. It's an amazing game, but unlike what I assume most other players do, since most Bloodborne players are naturally also Souls players, I play it offline. I don't care for invasions, PvP, none of that. I've been enjoying my solo experience of fighting grotesque monsters and hunters, leveling up and finding secrets, overcoming bosses and other challenges, and enjoying the sweet satisfaction of finally beating a piece of shit boss into my fucking head and you fucking Martin Ligarius, you son of a... Sorry. I do love the option of being able to go online, interact with others and challenge friends to fights and stuff, but that's not the experience I wanted from Bloodborne. The reason I speak so passionately about single player gaming is because of how it has been talked about recently. When gaming developers and publishers say themselves that single player gaming is dead and gamers don't want linear games anymore, then that worries me a bit. Granted, sure, linear games can be frustrating, sometimes it's nice to have choices that impact the game, but the same year this single player gaming is dead talk started coming up, Detroit Become Human was released, a brilliant game where every choice you make impacts the story. God of War, a breathtakingly beautiful game with one of my favourite stories of recent media. Red Dead Redemption 2 that again had a brilliant story. You made choices that had an impact on the world around you and the ending of the story you would get. It was a brilliant year for single player gaming. In that same year, A Way Out was released. A Way Out was made by a brilliant dev called Joseph Fares. I might be mispronouncing the name, not too sure. This game was strictly multiplayer. You played it split screen with a friend, or I think you could play it online. It was a great throwback to the old days of split screen couch gaming. I played A Way Out with my girlfriend and we both think of it as one of the best stories we've experienced recently. And it was made even better, in my opinion, by how we were able to actively take part in and experience the story together. A Way Out was a great example of how multiplayer games can have a great story and appeal to gamers like me who grew up on single-player, story-based games as opposed to multiplayer games. It's not like single-player gamers can't enjoy multiplayer games and vice versa. I mean, I loved Black Ops for its campaign, many others loved it for its honestly awesome multiplayer. Like Bloodborne, it's great to have the option of having a multiplayer or single player experience. My favourite all-time games have all been single player. My top games are games that I've been able to really immerse myself in. Skyrim has always been my favourite game for the longest time, strictly because of how deep I was immersed. In 2013, when I first started playing Skyrim, every day when I got home from school, I would turn on my Xbox, hop into a party with my friends, and start playing Skyrim. If no one else was on, I just play it on my own anyway, but one day, as sad as it may sound, I started playing it when I got home at around 3:30 in the afternoon, and I didn't realise what time it was when I stopped playing. It was like 9 PM. Sure, that's nothing really nowadays. Gaming binges are something a lot of us do a lot of the time, but it was more the fact that I didn't notice or care about the time as I was doing quests and experiencing all these cool stories, going out into the woods hunting, exploring ruins, fighting bandits, learning new words for dragon shouts, slaying dragons, becoming an assassin, becoming a vampire lord, and one of the greatest DLCs of all time. It was a hell of an experience. I've never had that kind of experience in multiplayer games, sadly, so I can never really get into them as much as others have. I'll always treasure games like The Witcher 3, Red Dead, GTA's story modes, Metal Gear Solid, God of War, Heavy Rain, the Metro series, among many others for their stories, their characters, the experience of being involved in these unique and interesting stories, getting invested in characters you could generally care for or even hate as villains. I truly believe that even with the rise of multiplayer gaming and the love that companies like EA have for multiplayer games over single player, that single player gaming is never really going to die. They're releasing that new Jedi game this year though, with Respawn making it, so we'll see how that goes. Very interested in that. That's my personal take on my love for single player games. I mean, obviously anyone can like or hate what they want. I don't hate multiplayer games or think the multiplayer based games are bad. However, I personally can't truly get into multiplayer games as much as I can for single player games. I mean, the next big games I'm hyped for right now are Cyberpunk and Death Stranding. I mean, the dev team behind Cyberpunk are fucking awesome. It's the Witcher developers, CD Projekt Red. I have full faith in them to deliver an amazing game. The same can be said for Death Stranding. I mean, I love Hideo Kojima. The man is a legend, and I can't fucking wait to see what he gives us in Death Stranding. When people who have seen the first hour of that game are saying that it's unlike anything they've ever seen, redefines the storytelling in video games, then that really excites me. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos in the future. Thanks so much for watching, like I said, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.